Beans, the magical fruit. Hello pot stickers, welcome back. My name is Greg and today I'm going to show you how I make refried beans from scratch. One of my most popular shorts videos was me showing you how I made quick refried beans using a can of beans. To be honest, I usually take the time to make my refried beans from dried beans, and I'm going to show you how I do that today. What I have in this bowl is about a pound of pinto beans that I've soaked overnight and allowed to soften. You certainly don't need to pre-soak your beans, but I do find that they tend to cook faster if you have softened them up ahead of time. And it helps wash away any of the dirt and dust and other things from the beans. After they're soaked, I'm going to give them a really good rinse in clean water and add them to a pot. I'm adding enough fresh water to cover the beans by about 1 or 2 inches. To give this a little bit of flavor, I'm adding about 1/4 of a large onion. 2 cloves of garlic are going in, along with a large jalapeno that I've split in half and seeded. I'm placing this on the stove and I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Once that comes to the boil, I'm going to lower the heat and gently simmer it for about 1.5 to 2 hours. That's usually enough time to allow the beans to get completely soft. You want to check your pot every now and then and add some more water if needed to keep those beans covered completely. You want to cook these until the beans are softened all the way through. If you didn't pre-soak your beans, your cooking times may be a little bit longer. Just keep checking your beans for doneness. I do this by taking a bean out and just pinching it between my fingers to see if it's softened all the way through. Once the beans are done, you want to fish out those vegetables that you added. They've given up all the flavor they're going to give at this point and they're just mushy vegetables. So take out the onions and the garlic and the jalapeno. These beans are fully cooked and you can use them just the way they are. Add them to soups or stews or make a pot of charro beans that you've added some tomato and some peppers and some onions and cumin to. It is delicious. Just note that up to this point we haven't added any salt to these beans, so if you're going to use them in a final dish, it will need to be seasoned. Well, today, as I said, we're going to make refried beans. You can use a saute pan or, as I'm doing here, a large cast iron pot. You just want to make sure that it's wide enough that these beans can cook down quickly, so you have a lot of surface area for that water to evaporate. And you want it deep enough to hold them all without making a mess. That's why I prefer my large Dutch oven. Now at this point you want to flavor these beans a little bit more. So to do that, I'm adding a splash of oil to my hot pan along with some diced onion, some jalapeno, and a clove of garlic that's been minced up. Just saute these down with a pinch of salt and pepper until they begin to soften. This helps bring out and awaken those flavors. Then add in your beans. I have a big pot of beans here. I'm not going to add them all. I'm reserving some to use for something else, but I'm putting in about 3/4 of what I cooked. Note that I'm adding a little bit of that cooking liquid along with those beans. I'm seasoning this with a generous pinch of salt. Also going in here is 1.5 teaspoons of a vegan chicken bouillon. Also 1 teaspoon of oregano. Now I'm just using regular oregano because that's all I have at the moment, but if you can find it, seek out Mexican oregano. The flavors will be even better. 2 tablespoons of ground cumin is also going in to help round out all of those Mexican flavors. Stir this up well and start cooking it down. Now what we want to do is mash those beans up while it's cooking. I'm using a flat potato masher because I find that crushes the beans the best. But even those wire type potato mashers do work for this. And I'm going to continue crushing and mashing these beans while it's cooking until I get the right consistency. You can mash up your beans as much or as little as you like. If you like it chunky, that's okay. If you want it smoother, just keep mashing until it's smooth. You do you. I'm looking to keep a little bit of the bean texture in mind, so I'm not making it completely smooth. Once I have them mashed up to the point that I want, I'm continuing to cook this down, stirring often and scraping down the sides of the pot. What you don't want is those beans to get too dry and burned on the edges. So keep stirring it. For the recipe I'm making these beans for, I need a rather thick and slightly dry bean paste. So I'm taking my time and cooking these down until it's kind of a thick consistency. The great thing about making your own refried beans is that you can make them as runny or as stiff as you like. Here you can see that they're starting to thicken up. You can see as I drag my spoon across, it doesn't completely run back immediately. This would be a good consistency to serve as a side dish on a plate of a Mexican meal like you would find in a Mexican restaurant. But I need it a little drier, so I'm going to keep going. This is the texture I'm after. These are starting to dry out a bit, and you can see that they're holding their shape pretty well when it's stirred. When this cools, it will tighten up even more. You can see how nice and firm the beans are as I use them to stuff into this corn masa. This is a Mexican street food basically made with a corn masa with beans stuffed inside and shaped into a triangle. Well, make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on that video that's coming up soon. Thank you for watching, enjoy your beans, and we'll see you next time as the pot thickens.